Hello and welcome to another episode of FIFAe Talks, the home of football esports, where we find out more about the minds behind some of the most influential people in the community. Now, I know I often say it's a very special episode, but here today we have football manager royalty, if you like. Over 100,000 subscribers, FM streamer Showdown superstar, caster on the FIFAe World Cup featuring football manager, but most importantly, that's my guy. Dr. Benjy was
my guy.
That's the new phrase now, my guy.
How was my guy? I had so many guys at the tournament. Yeah, thank you for having me, mate. It's a pleasure. It's nice to be getting back involved in stuff. I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit, but yeah, thanks for having me on.
For sure, this is going to be a good one. Obviously, a lot of you are going to have questions about Liverpool, so we'll make a big chunk of that for sure. But as always, we want to know more about the backstory and see how people got to where they are today. So to start with, I got asked about the upbringing. Were you always into gaming as a kid, or?
Nah, I was very much not that you've met me, so you know, like physically, I don't look like a footballer. But for the first 18 years of my life, it was like I'm going to be a footballer, football.
Yeah.
And then it's the classic: get injured. Then it never really comes to anything. Then you realise, do you know what? I'm probably not going to be a footballer. Is there a plan B? Oh, there's no plan B. I'll just be sad for ages. And so that's kind of how it went. But no, I didn't own any I had a GameCube when I was growing up, right? And I was always a PC player. So I had Championship Manager. But when I say a PC player, like I exclusively had a computer so I could play Championship Manager and Football Manager. And it wasn't until like 2010 where I got an Xbox and I was like, oh, this is actually really fun. Like online gaming to me was a bit like, wow, this is cool. But I was about 5 years too late to it. So then eventually, I got really into it. And at that point, I don't know, I was a YouTuber since 2006. I was very early to YouTube. Yeah, very early to YouTube. We're going nearly 20 years of YouTube. So I was very early to that. I was part of like the first wave of UK YouTube. So for those listening, like pre-KSI YouTube, that people don't remember. Although me and Will Brazier, who was at the event, Will Brazier knows about that era of YouTube. And when you meet someone of that, it's like a secret club that you never speak about that era of YouTube, but you both know it happened. It's like it's like that's like the pre-Zoella days. That's how far back we're going. But no, I was a bit...
You were there from that first video when that guy was at the zoo and he was saying
my first video wasn't that long after his first video, the first ever video. So yeah, I was, as much as I'm a bit of an OG from the football manager scene, I remember coming into that and being like, I'm a bit of a newcomer, never really feeling like I fit in, but wanted to change things a little bit. But yeah, I've always been
what were you posting them times then?
So it was the name Doctor Benjy comes from that. I was like, I'm going to be like a young person advice channel. And I did 3 of those videos and got a combined 100 views and thought, do you know what? Maybe this ain't it. Maybe it's not going to be that. And then so I changed it up and I sort of did like little comedy bits, like observational comedy stuff. I definitely went through the period of thinking, I'm going to be a stand-up comedian. If I can't be a footballer, I'll be a stand-up comedian. And that never really came to anything either. But that's sort of where it started. And then I sort of did, I think I had a channel which at the time got to about 3,000 subscribers. Now in early YouTube,
that's a lot back then.
I was like
that's
top
huge.
50 in the UK having that many subscribers. So yeah, I was one of the first partnered YouTubers way back when the first like introduction of that process came in. And yeah, so it was kind of interesting to be in that world for a long time and then watching for a long time and thinking, do you know what, how can I transition into making this into something? And I remember when I started Football Manager, it was like, actually, I could maybe make that a job. And I did like a lot of studying on it and watched a lot of the guys doing it and thought, no one's using a camera. Someone should use a camera. so I was one of the first people to do that. And that sort of changed it a little bit. But now that's commonplace, right? But at the time, it was a big deal.
So how long were you playing FM before you started making content on it then?
So I remember I was in the demo of Championship Manager 102. And then it obviously transitioned into Football Manager in 2005. So it was a good 14 years of playing before doing any content on it.
And then when you realize, all right, cool, this is genuinely working, like I can make a serious living out of that. What year would you say that was for you? Yeah,
I started streaming. I did a bit of streaming first. Jack White, the Space, obviously represented England in the World Cup. He was streaming already to maybe 200-300 people occasionally. And there was one night where he stopped and he was like, you should start. And I'd already done a little bit of live streaming in sort of 2010. So I knew the process. I wasn't overawed by the idea of people watching me, which I think helped early on. I had that experience. I wasn't, because a lot of people stream for the first time and go, oh, loads of people here. But actually, it wasn't really like that for me. I jumped straight into it. But I was using my girlfriend's laptop at the time, who's still my fiance now. I mean, we're 16 years in. Got to be sure though, right? You got to be sure. So we'll, at some point maybe we'll confirm it.
You're still getting the scout report still going, just seeing.
You got to be certain.
Yeah, for sure.
Potential's looking good though. So we started in 2014. Used her laptop. It would like overheat and freeze like twice a stream. It was like there was a ticking clock of when this is going to break again. So it got around. So that was around sort of like April, May, June, and then July. I was like, I'm going to need a computer. But at the time, like, I wasn't working. I dropped out of college twice. Things weren't looking great. I was 23, 24, and I was in that process. And I speak to a lot of people like this now. A lot of young people that are in the same process of like they're waiting for the break. They're waiting for something to happen. And I sort of got to a point where I was like, do you know what? If something's going to happen, I'm going to make it happen. And so I was very fortunate. I could go to my parents and say, listen, I need a little bit of money to help this be a thing. I say a little bit of money at the time. It was like 400 quid, like 450 pounds, I think it was. I was like, when I find a way to pay this back, and I was making like a small amount from donations and adverts on Twitch, and it was like, it would have taken me quite a few months. But they lent me the money in the August, and in the October, I managed to pay them back. And they were a bit like, oh, I guess this is going to be something. And I remember running an Ethernet cable through like the downstairs, upstairs into my bedroom. My mum was like, well, how long is that going to be there for? And I was like, I felt like I was in an action film. I was like, until I'm a success. And actually it wasn't that long. I just did it through the window upstairs. But yeah, it was actually something that I thought I would actually do all right at, and backed myself. And I think a lot of people start content creation now and think, oh, we'll see what happens. Maybe there's a chance. But I was very certain of like, no, I can do this. I just have to find the audience. And as soon as you find the audience, then you've got to sort of make them believe in you a little bit. And I think we did that pretty well too. But that seems crazy now because it's literally over 10 years ago as we talk about it. So yeah, mad.
A lot has happened in that 10 years. What would you say has been your, excluding the last couple of weeks, your proudest achievement?
It is that though.
The best thing
the last couple of weeks definitely is that. I think going to Football Manager and meeting the people that make the game was always a big moment, and doing that. I've done some like weird things, like we spoke about it a little bit last week. Did a video with Soldier Boy out of nowhere. I say did a video, sort of hijacked the stream once. One of the highlights for me, genuinely, and I know we're not including the last week, but working with Spencer on some things. When I was starting off, he was one of the people I looked at and thought, you know what, I'd love to work with him. And so to do that 10 years later and be like very much part of his team almost, it was really, really cool. Yeah, but going to Football Manager, I've been to Football Manager probably 10, 15 times now, and met with them and spoke with them and been part of their process a little bit and understanding them and trying to teach them content creation sometimes. That's been really cool. So yeah, definitely like having those opportunities has been great.
And Streamer Showdown, would you have that high on your list of, I guess, maybe not proudest moments, achievements, if you will? Is that something that you enjoy doing a lot? Yeah,
it was born out of lockdown, and it was spoken about a lot last week or pretty recently because of the tournament buzz again, and everyone sort of referenced it. And I remember speaking to one of the guys who works as our production team, and I said, obviously when I did the Streamer Showdown, he was a bit like, what's that? I was like, oh, you've got a lot to learn. We're about to go through a process. So speaking to them about how we did it online and sort of produced it as a bit of a two-man show, myself and my business partner Matt, who's better known as Nerdphonic, we sort of it was born a little before that with a guy called Foxy, and we sort of built it and then expanded it, and we basically saw the potentials. Actually, we could bring sponsors into this, we can create a bit of revenue for streamers, and actually I saw it personally as like, we can put on a tournament, the prize money can go to whoever wins it, they can then use that money to invest in themselves and their stream, and even if it was like 400 quid for like the winner, but that's enough to get a new camera or to get some new software or whatever, or a new microphone, and it was like worth it for that reason. I think we ended up again having sponsors like KFC and Manscaped come on board. So yeah, you're right, that was a massive achievement for like what we wanted to do with it. And I think we did 18 of them, and I think 15 of them or something were sponsored, which was really cool, and just allowed us, like, we were paying out thousands of pounds at that point for people that were working on it with us. I think we had like a production team of like 7, but it was a very well-oiled production team that were able to put together something that lasted 3 days over weekends on the front page of Twitch for a long time, which is now something that, looking back, feels a bit mad that every week for 2 weekends we would be, or for 1 weekend, sorry, on the Saturday and the Sunday, we'd be on the front page of Twitch, which is very, very cool, and being able to showcase Football Manager to a bit of a wider gaming audience. And it definitely, like we've talked about bringing it back recently, and there's a lot of excitement for that, which is very cool. Yeah,
and like you said, you've mentioned expanding and the potential and whatnot. Obviously now we come to Liverpool where
crazy.
You've got an organisation as large as FIFA now backing it. I want to ask you, did you realise maybe how massive the FM community is globally? Because me personally, I wasn't that aware of just how huge it was in pretty much every country around the world.
I thought I was until I saw the likes the posts on Instagram got when Indonesia won, and I was like, "Yo, what is going on? Where are these people? Where are these subscribers?"
Not even Indonesia winning. Just by the way, here's the Indonesia players for today.
Yeah.
Bang, Indonesia mentioned. Same for all the other countries as well.
Yeah, amazing.
It's crazy.
I'm very like the French community is pretty big. I'm aware of like a Spanish and a German following as well, and like there are different. And Z's trying to do his best to get America on the map for Football Manager. So I was definitely aware of it, but like, and in Asia, like there's a huge following. Like Korea, I've got some big streamers as well that have streamed Football Manager. So it's definitely aware, but to that level, no. Even I was a bit like, wow, there's some big numbers that have been thrown about. It made you guys look really good with the content side of things.
I can't lie, definitely.
Yeah,
they carried a lot with the comments and the likes.
Yeah, sure. Amazing. But so good to see like actual genuine interest and genuine love for it come from that part of the world. And if we can try and, because we're now like for the UK community already, like myself and Jack have talked about future projects, and we're looking at the way they're doing things, going, we need to steal that, but in a respect kind of way of, oh, actually they're doing it really well. We need to focus on some of that and see what we can take. So and I think that's like the inspiration from a lot of content tends to come from other sources anyway. So the fact that we're going to take it from there, I think is a really positive sign, and actually speaks to the wider community for Football Manager, which, as you say, is bigger than probably anyone really realised.
For sure. And obviously you mentioned Indonesia there. Were you expecting that they would win, or were they more of like a dark horse that suddenly by, let's say, day 3, 4, you're like, oh, hold on a second, yeah, these guys are serious?
Yeah, there's a great moment on the first day when they didn't arrive on day 1. I think they had some like flight issues. So I'd like to think they were just watching their group.
Just seeing everyone's mistakes first.
Yeah, no one else done, okay, we don't sign him, whatever we do, we don't sign him. And then there's just this moment, so I can't remember who came up to me and just said, oh, by the way, Indonesia have done the quadruple. But said it really casually. And I sort of went over to them and I was like, have you won everything? They were just like, yeah. So casual about it. Yeah, we've won everything. I was like, well, Jack certainly doesn't know this. So I'll just ponder over to England's pod and just go, by the way, have you heard about Indonesia? And he's just like, no. I went, they've won the quadruple. And they could just see his face like he'd seen a ghost. It's just like, what? We're not going to win then, are we? I'm like, no. You know, I just walk away. So no, I don't think anyone expected. The thing is, it was not that it's random, but for the first ever one, there's no history to go off. So you don't really know who's got like the talent to stay consistent and to keep their heads in the game as such. Because I think that's a big part of Football Manager, is not overplaying to some degree. Like if you've got something that works, you kind of have to trust the process a bit. And they were really good at that. They never really diverted away from it, whereas other teams definitely did. If you have like one moment, if you're winning every game and then you lose one game, you're like, okay, we should probably change something. It's like actually being able to stay consistent, and they were brilliant at that. So I think when it came down to it, they definitely deserved it. So that was great.
And for me personally, when I was obviously watching it, and I really enjoyed it as well, I think there were also people that I'd class as winners that didn't actually win the actual tournament, people that were entertaining. So I'd like to know maybe 3 countries or 3 teams that you would say were perhaps your most enjoyable. Like you just like their vibes. They were just funny to be around.
I definitely bandwagoned on Team Germany. I loved Terry, who was doing the press conferences for Germany. I don't think you mind me saying, I had a little word with him on the first day. I was like, you are dominating this whole thing right now. Act like you are. Like play into it a little bit. And then they came to the press conference going, we're unbeatable. No one's just like, no, I don't see any competition. It was so great. So they were brilliant. I love Jay from South Korea. I thought he was brilliant as well. Like really good fun in the press conferences, able to laugh at himself and have fun with himself, which I think not everyone is capable of that and to be comfortable to do that. But his felt so natural, which felt so lovely. He was brilliant. I got on. Then I could almost name everybody, right? I went around and spoke to every single competitor. Got on really well with so many of the different teams. I could go up to everyone and say, "That's my guy." Right? The French guys are full of personality. The Lithuanian guys are full of personality. Love the guys from India. Love the guys from Norway. Love the guys from like the Netherlands. Again, I feel bad leaving people out. There are so many different groups that I spoke to. But yeah, it was great, and the seriousness in which they took it almost played into the fun element as well, because once they took it seriously, it was like, oh, okay, I can play with that seriousness now. Whereas if everyone's having too much fun, it's like I have to become serious. Whereas I didn't actually have to do that, which meant I could have every press conference knowing where the space would be there, knowing I could give Jack absolute pelters every time was brilliant. Yeah, really good fun.
You mentioned press conferences. Who would you say then would be, I guess, the best performer? Now you can say me if you want to. You don't have to, but you're more than welcome to say me if you want. Alternatively, who would you say had the best performance in these press conferences?
I think the variety of questions that came out. You're a security guard, you're an ultra, You were a brother of a player at one point.
Yeah.
Like, you covered
but
all
some
bases.
of them gave really good answers, though. I can't, like, RDF, I feel like, in terms of answering questions, sometimes he would reply and I'll be like, you know what? Fair enough, man.
It was quite, I think they were quite intimidated because there was the one where you were like, I'm actually the brother of the striker. And they were a little bit like, wait, is he this kind of brother of the, have I just spent 2 minutes?
Yeah.
So that was great. But seeing them bounce off that energy from us was huge because I don't think anyone really knew what the press conferences would be like. I think I sat down for the first one thinking, how rigid is this going to be and how much am I going to get to play with it? And then it was almost like the first question opened it up and we were a bit like, oh, okay, they're taking it seriously, but they also get it. And that was the bit I was worried about. It was like, we also have to remember we're making a show, and it was something we spoke about as a talent team. It was like, we need to get this out of them if they're not comfortable. And a big part of that, I actually think, was us going around and speaking to them all beforehand and saying to them, I'm going to put a bit of pressure on here. How are you getting on? And them knowing a little bit beforehand, oh, actually, it's not going to be too violent. Like, it's not going to be too vicious.
Some people watching might just think like we're just grilling them for no reason. But genuinely, I feel like everyone there was very cool with each other. Like, we knew they were just for entertainment.
Yeah, and no one was offended, and no one was like I went for South Africa a lot because of their transfer policies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then in the after party, I spoke to Enzo, the manager for South Africa. I was like, by the way, I don't actually hate you guys. I actually love you guys. Like, and he was like, yeah, I know, I got it. I was like, okay, good. But you're never sure, right? You don't want someone to go back to the hotel room, have a little bit of a breakdown, be like, why did Benjy and Lelujo come for me? It's like, sorry guys, we didn't mean to do it like that. It was just part of the show. But yeah, the press conferences were a real highlight. You were a real highlight. You were brilliant.
Too kind. And make sure you keep this one in the edit, yeah? Make sure you keep this one. Obviously, so you mentioned the talent team as well. What was it like to, I guess, work with guys that I'm not going to say grew up with, but you've been playing this game with for a number of years now, or you've, for Spencer's case, I guess, kind of had him as an idol, if you will, for a while.
Yeah, I'd commentated a hashtag game with him earlier this year, I think it was. Feels like a lifetime ago. And so that was a real thrill to do that with him. And I'd worked on a few different Football Manager projects. We'd had him in the stream of Showdown as well, which was a real thrill. Kev Lelujo I've known for 10 years now. We started our journeys at quite a similar time, actually. And then people like Statman Dave and people like Will Brazier, I've watched from afar and thought, oh, they seem like really talented guys. It'd be great to, like, never thinking you're actually going to work with them doing that. And then Chelsea Cabarcas from Queens, like, coming in and being
Top G.
Such a breath of fresh air in a sense that we're all sort of Football Manager addicts. And she comes in having never played the game, not really knowing anything about the game, but actually forced our mindset to be like, oh, we need to tell the story a little bit like for those types of people that aren't as familiar. And she was so keen to understand and learn it. And she would pick our brains on like, what should I ask? And we were all really keen to help her as much as we could as well. And to be a group that I think, like, there's a little bit of crossover, right? I've worked with Spencer a bit. Spencer's worked with Will a little bit. They've both worked with Dave a little bit. And then Kev's worked with me and Spencer a little bit. So there was a lot of crossover, but as a six, we'd never worked on anything together. And the flow of how we connected and the flow of how we produced things felt incredibly natural very, very quickly. And I hadn't met any of them like properly for a long time. Like, even Kev I hadn't seen for a year. And we sat down at like the production table that first day, had dinner, and were just like, okay, this is going to work. And I think we all kind of knew that. And there was very little ahs, pauses. When you're a production or a talent team that are on camera together and you all want to say something, that it didn't actually feel like we were talking over each other. It blended really. Whoever put that together, I think Spencer was a major part of it, but whoever put that six together did a really good job of finding just what it needed for this type of tournament, which is a real nice blend of sort of expert analysis. I wouldn't say me and Kev are experts at all, but expert analysis, and then sort of like a reverent sort of conversation when it was necessary. And we did a really, really good job of blending that together.
Yeah, I mean, again, I would be more than inclined to agree, because for me personally, I'm not necessarily like an FM expert. Obviously, I watch football 24/7, but I don't play Football Manager as much as obviously you guys would do. But you guys definitely made it very easy to understand what's going on without making it like a bit too serious. Like, it wasn't just non-stop, here's information, here's statistics, here's everything. Just surface level enough that people can understand it whilst also being entertained. So I definitely enjoyed that. And I would also want to know then, across the week, me personally, I laughed a lot. I'd like to know your funniest moment. It can be on screen, it can be off screen, something that happened in the hotel lobby, whatever it may be.
I have got a story that was very good actually, where so Chelsea obviously being from America, she's not, I wouldn't call her a big Guinness drinker. And I'd personally never had a Guinness either before in my life. I had my first Guinness this week, big weekend for me. Wore a lot of makeup, tried Guinness, got into wine, huge week. And so she wants to go for a burger. anywhere. She's like, I just need a burger anywhere. So the 6 of us go to this pub in Liverpool. We're pretty confident. It's like 10 o'clock. The wrap was quite late. We're pretty confident there will not be food at this place, but we will try for Chelsea. So we go to this place, no burger. So immediately she's like, this has gone poorly. Like, we'll just stay for a drink though. And she's like, okay, I guess. We're like, Guinness? She's like, I'll try Guinness. Not really knowing what Guinness is. She tries it. She's going, tastes like coffee. It's like, well, that's not a compliment. She's like, no, but do you like it? She's like, tastes like coffee. I'm like, but do you like it though? She's like, tastes like burnt coffee. She's like, not having it. She's tried it 3 times. She's gone, do you know what? Not doing that at all. So teaching Chelsea British culture was amazing. She was desperate for a fish and chips. We had a fish and chip debacle going on for about 4 days where me and Kev skipped meals due to the promises that were made by Chelsea of like, yeah, I'll do it tonight. Eventually, on like the final night, we actually go for fish and chips. She loved it. So as much as Guinness was a disappointment, the fact that fish and chips was such a high point for her week, I think, was great. But again, having someone like me and Chelsea Kabakas aren't supposed to meet. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just, she works for CBS. She does some amazing presenter gigs. She's met some like incredible people, and now she's had to work with Lelujo and Doctor Benjy for a week. So I can only.
She enjoyed it. She was there playing FM as well. She was on
we streamed together a little bit. So I've really tried to be like, you will like this. I promise you will like. If we just give it a chance, you will like this. But she was brilliant, and actually, again, she was a highlight, I think, for a lot of us that week because of how much she wanted to care about it, and again, being someone that's a complete novice, it sort of allowed us to all go back to when we first started playing it and talk about it. But yeah, having her really not enjoy Guinness, but really not wanting to offend us was one of the funnier moments that we had. Also, actually, the same night, that reminds me, we've gone through like 7, 8 to like 14 hours of Football Manager stuff. We go to this pub and Spencer turns to us and goes, anyone want to play chess? It's like, this one thing. No, and Dave was trying to
serious focus.
Dave was like, yeah, I'll play. So we're in this pub, we're chatting about Guinness, the 4 of us, and you've just got Spencer and Dave playing chess. I'm thinking, we're just on 15 hours of Football Manager chat, and now you want to play chess? What, to unwind? Like, I don't think of chess like that.
That's a bit of relaxation.
Yeah, that was an amazing moment. Just like looking over, thinking they're genuinely just playing chess. They played for about 3 hours. It's crazy, but they clearly enjoyed it. It was very funny.
No, they were definitely good. And obviously, you spoke about a couple of the guys earlier, the England guys.
Yeah.
I've got a question for you here. It might upset some of them, but I know you're very cool with them, so you're more than happy to upset whoever it may concern. So, there were obviously 4 English players there. We had Work the Space, we had Tom FM, RDF, and Second Yellow Card. My question to you, you are the manager of a football club. Pick 1 to be your chairman, 1 to be your assistant manager, 1 to be the social media guy, and 1 to get sacked on the spot.
Okay, sacked on the spot would be Jack. So it's very easy to do that.
Why is that?
Social media, I'll go with Tom. Tom's done a really good job at his own social medias and raised his YouTube profile a lot. So who have I got then? I've got manager and what was the other one? Chairman.
You got assistant manager and chairman.
Assistant manager.
You are the manager.
I'm the manager. Oh, easy though. Do you know what? I'll take Aaron as my assistant. I think it makes sense, and I think entrusting Matt with the finances is probably he's probably the most sensible of the 4. So probably risk that. And me and Aaron would clash a lot. Like
I was gonna say that. Are you not concerned that he might try take the show a little bit from you? Try to take your job if you start fumbling a little.
All I'll say, I mean, he's lucky I wasn't in the competition because
is it?
Yeah, yes, like that. And deep down, Aaron knows that. Aaron knows if I was he's lucky I was on the desk because it would have been like that.
I have some unfortunate news for you though, because so I've been given a list of notes here. Most of this has been my own questions, but I've given you a list of notes, and one of them says, ask Benjy specifically about how his streams have been going, trying the challenges.
I've not been streaming. I mean, I don't know where this has come from. Yeah. Look, I've not done Dynamo yet, so let's reserve judgment until we've gone up against Aaron specifically. I actually meant more so in terms of press conferences. I would have had
I know.
But that's where I think most managerial talent comes: the ability to answer questions from the cousin of Brazilian strikers.
For sure.
But that's obviously not quite the way it went. Yeah, all right. It's not been going brilliantly on stream. I've taken on some challenges. I've taken some risks. Turns out the Brighton one actually pretty difficult. Turns out, so but it's been good to be. I'm exploring the skill gap. So if anything, I'm doing FIFA a big favour by proving that the guys that took part are actually elite players, and the presenting team were a bit of a joke. But still,
you did what you had to do. You're entertained, so that's the most important part.
Tried.
For me, being there, I would say the most surreal part for myself personally was sitting and chatting with Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank for
Yeah.
some number of hours. What about, obviously, for you, because you are someone that is well established in the community, but I guess still having just football players and managers randomly chilling must have been interesting for you.
Yeah, and there was, and that's the, I think you said it, like it was surprising to the point where you don't necessarily expect it. You think they're going to be a little bit isolated from you. They're not necessarily going to be so involved. But John Terry was more than willing to just chat with us. I'm having my makeup done the first day he arrives, and he just sort of walks past, and I think this is a bit weird, isn't it? And then we're just chatting to him for 20 minutes about just things that aren't related to Football Manager. Having Big Sam come and sit at a table of talent, and then know that he's there. Like that was a great moment where we're sitting around and Tom's with us as well, Tom FM, and we're just chatting with Sam Allardyce, as you do on a Thursday or whatever it was. And we leave to go do a rehearsal. We come back, they're still chatting. I'm thinking, wherever club Sam Allardyce ends up next, Tom FM was going to be the assistant manager or in part of the coaching staff. So that was really lovely. And Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank again was absolutely like they were all the three guys that came that were from the real world of football, if you want to put it like that, were all brilliant, were all lovely. All had time for us, all willing to conversate with us, and it made it really easy. And I think there was a little bit of concern of like, will they get it? Like, Football Manager is a very niche game as it is.
I was going to say that. I felt like they genuinely like enjoyed themselves. It wasn't like, let me sit here for my designated 1 hour and then cut to leave or whatever. Like, they really enjoyed it.
I was really keen. I said the same thing to Chelsea, actually. I said, all you know about football, the game is built in a way where everything you know about football will be able to be applied to this. Like, the game is as such that it's built on real life as a simulation. Everything you know, all the points you've ever raised about football, other than maybe somewhere like the playing specific detail, everything else will work. So use that knowledge. And I think as soon as they all realised, I can just use all the stuff I already know about football and apply it to this. The great example was John Terry talking about corners with Statman Dave during one of the live shows.
Yeah.
It was like, I remember we were sitting at the desk and I sort of went to Will and Spencer and I went, this is really good. This works as a Football Manager concept and as a real life concept. And it proved really that having those influences there, as in having John Terry there, was an actual good move. And I think there was a little bit of trepidation of, is it right to bring in real footballers? Will it be two worlds too far apart? But actually, again, it worked really well, and again, the blend was really good. So massive shout out to the production team, who actually I should say a lot of this. We talk about the talent, we talk about those guys coming in as well. The production team that were part of this and the producers and directors that we had were so willing to listen to the way in which, like, they sort of admitted, you know about this game, we don't necessarily know about this game. Teach us. And then throughout the first few days, we really got a really nice rapport with them to be able to say, maybe we should be doing this. Have we looked at this? Maybe present it like this. And they were so I've never worked an event like this to this scale, right? But I can't believe how lovely and willing and engaged everybody was in the project and the game at the same time and the production at the same time. Like, it was so great. If I never work an event again, good, because this is the gold standard.
It doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, if it's never better than this, then fair enough, because it was so brilliant and I had such a great time.
You know what it is? I want to give a shout out to someone else as well. Not quite production team, but given the hours he was putting in, you'd think he was. And that's a man you have a love-hate relationship with. Mr. Zealand.
Yeah.
You would see him sitting at his desk 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. He's still sitting there. I don't think I saw him outside the arena at all. He was proper putting in a shift for these guys, isn't it?
Yeah, he's like on his own streams, on his own platforms, he's done World Cups with like the computer just playing against each other, commentating them for like 5 hours at a time on 2-day sessions. So, you know, and I mean this lovingly, and he knows if he's a big enough loser to do that, then when actual people are involved,
makes sense.
He's gonna be great. And actually, he was in the perfect spot for what he's really good at. Like from his threads he was doing on X, I hate calling it that, or like
I never call it that.
His streams that he was doing on Twitch as well. Like he had the perfect blend of what the competition needed. And actually, I think from a production standpoint, we can make more of what he was doing. Like if we do future events, I think there's a real blueprint now of like how we can maybe present this to a wider audience throughout the rest of the day, so the press conferences don't feel quite so detached from everything else. But yeah, the bloke's a machine. He's terrible with timekeeping. So the fact that he was there so early and left so late, I assume that was just to make sure that he was there. Because he's terrible with timekeeping. He always goes missing for stuff. It's crazy. But yeah, he's a machine, and showcased really why he's in the position that he's in, because his ability to be on track of everything at the same time, then get that message across to everybody else was really good.
For sure. And just now you mentioned as well, I guess, ways to improve things and how everyone was just so open to different ideas. So I'd like to know, obviously, given how successful this first attempt was, if there was to be one thing that you'd improve on to make it even better potentially in the future, what would you add or change perhaps?
Yeah, so I think I think they did a lot of things really well. I thought doing the offline and then the online elements worked really well. For me, you have to, like I talked about it with Jack actually just yesterday, you have to game show some of it a little bit as well. There has to be a little bit more added spice and added fun. And I think getting the competitors to be against each other a little bit more. Those seasons, those 3 seasons you play where you're isolated in sort of your own little game world with your assistant manager, I think those need to become a little bit more competitive. So whether that's making like the top goal scorer like gain you points, so whoever's got the top goal scorer, and so even if you've got nothing to play for in terms of competitions and trophies, there's these additional little challenges that you can do that would have added a bit of spice in, and actually would have meant you'd have had to keep track of what everyone else was doing, because everyone was quite single-minded focused. But in a competitive environment, you kind of want there to be that edge a little bit, and then using those moments to be like, well, this guy got, I don't know, 24 goals out of Gokures from Sporting, why didn't you? Like, and using those moments of like, it's cost you 2 points, it might cost you the whole tournament. We didn't really get to play off that idea very much. And I think so doing that and adding that competitive element against the managers a little bit more. But ultimately with them gaining points without points being taken away.
I agree.
Would be great. And so that's maybe the one thing. There's loads of production things I would love to talk about because of my experience with the Showdown that I think could have been added in. But for what it was for the first one ever, for the biggest spectacle that it was, there wasn't a huge amount that needed to change, in my opinion. It kind of served exactly the purpose that I think it's out to do, and everyone involved only exemplified that. So it was brilliant.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Had such a great time. Sorry, I finished every sentence with it was brilliant. It was,
no, because it was. I fully hear you. That's why I say like it was obviously already fantastic, but of course it's a first time, so there's always going to be some slight things that you can maybe tweak. Because I agree with you in terms of you don't want it to get to a thing where on the last day you kind of know who's going through already. So even adding to what you said, I'd even chuck in points for best performance in press conferences, best suit. I'll give Lithuanian some points for the suit he wore on day one. I'm giving him like 20 points for that alone.
Happier boss vibes. He looked amazing. Yeah.
Crazy.
I don't know if anyone played Mario Party. At the end, they'd give like gold stars for things that like were sort of out of control of things. I like the idea of like those being added in after the fact, where they're already predetermined, but managers don't necessarily know what they would be. So it's like you could do one for like least amount of yellow cards or something really like not related, but actually would just make it a little bit more fun. And it doesn't have to be like game changing or anything like that, but it could be something where they could add just that little bit more competitiveness, a little bit more detail.
For sure.
You don't want to make it too gimmicky. I understand that.
Yeah.
But with Football Manager is a game of there's a degree of luck to it anyway.
Well.
Like you might as well play into that a little bit because there's room to do that, and it's not like, in my opinion anyway, it's not like other esports. I've followed esports for the best part of 10, 15 years. It doesn't have the same purity that those esports have, but that's sort of what makes it more exciting, because there's the element of like, because a lot of esports you kind of do, like if one team plays another team, you kind of know, I expect this to happen because of the quality of those teams. In Football Manager, there is this little 10-15% of no one knows what's about to happen.
You never know.
And but that kind of makes it great.
And speaking of that 10-15% of you never know what's going to happen, is there any chance you'll see Dr. Benjy himself competing one day, or do you prefer being on the casting side of things?
I think I might have found, I don't know, it's not really for me to say, is it? But I think I've kind of found my calling in presenting. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed being able to play the balance of being able to poke fun at certain managers, but when a bit more serious analysis was needed, I could provide that as well. I did that quite a lot during the final, where suddenly I became the Football Manager expert that I was paid to be there for. So there's part of me that would love to compete, because I am one of the best talkers in Football Manager history. And so I would love to...
Best rattlers.
Yeah, one of the best mind game meddlers going. Because we're trying to set up a network game between myself, White the Space, Zealand and Kev. We've done it before. And someone said, I don't want you to force them into playing. I'm thinking, I want to force them into playing. I want the mental warfare of them not really wanting to be there, but having to deal with me for a season. That'd be fun. That'd be brilliant. Yeah. So I think that side of it, a little bit of edge. I think Jack sort of played the villain a little bit in that, like, yeah, I'm going to win. I'll see my 3 finalists in the finals. Again, I don't want to say I encourage that, but I definitely had a conversation with him and said, you're not going to win, so just please have fun with this and go for people a little bit. And I think that's what Germany did well. And I think that's what makes it fun for the viewers watching. So again, I noticed you've asked me that question. I've not answered, yeah, I'll definitely win it if I take part. I've basically gone, the mind game element. I'd have to bring an assistant that basically is really good. I'll just go, yeah, you deal with that, and let me walk around and stress, but let me just go and stare at Lithuania for like 10 minutes and see what happens. So yeah, I'd be good at that side of it.
So there you go. That's a very politically correct answer, I suppose. You know, we never know what's going to happen after to see if it happens again.
England, I'm available, but then at the same time, 3-3. If you want me to present again, definitely available. So
or you could do both if you get knocked out. Who knows?
Yeah, right. Keep the options open.
Right, so we're gonna get onto the slightly nerdier side of things. Normally we get into like the more in-depth tactical side of things. So I guess since we are on the topic of FM, what is one tip you would give to make someone instantly improve as a beginner per se?
I think the idea, I think a lot of Football Manager, especially when you first play it, is, wow, this is a lot of information and I need to figure out this information. The quicker you can establish what's important and not important, well, things become a lot more simple. And actually that is my bit of advice, is that keep it simple. As someone that's played the game for 20 years, I mess around and meddle with stuff way too much, just sort of for my own enjoyment. But actually, if you're trying to understand the fundamentals of the game, keep it really simple, understand the tactic, and apply the advice I gave to the professionals, right? Apply your real life knowledge to Football Manager. The game is built like that. If you think that you've got a slower player that would be better playmaking than being a box-to-box midfielder, guess what? That's what they'll be better at. If you've got a striker that would be better at link-up play than just being the last man in behind, guess what? That'll work. And so keeping those fundamentals of real life football in your managerial and tactical decision making is the thing that will really help you in the game. And so, and not trying to divert from that too much. Like that's probably the way I'd go about it. Also, if you don't intend on being at a club for a long time, use installments, because apparently that's just something that's really strong in the game and maybe needs looking at because of what happened. But yeah, amazing.
I hear that. There you go. Installments, if it's a little 2-3 year save and you can leave the debt to someone else. Yeah, that's basically the advice we're giving. Do you have like one tactic or formation that you use basically every year or every season, or is it a case-by-case thing where depending on what leagues, what teams, you can like adjust?
Yeah, it depends when I choose to be a coward and go back to 4-2-3-1. I go into every save thinking I'm going to try something no one's ever done before, and people are going to come into my stream and watch my videos going, what is this? What is going on? And then I get to a point where I'm like, oh, do you know what, actually?
I need some points.
Yeah, I probably need to not get sacked here. So we'll just go to 4-2-3. Like in the challenges I've been doing where I've been trying to replicate what they did in the World Cup, I've just plugged in Indonesia's tactic and gone, do you know what? I'll sit back and relax and enjoy this.
Yeah.
And I'll let Doctor Indonesian FM just go for this and finish it off and win the league. And turns out very successful. I can see why they did so well. So yeah, tactically, I wouldn't say there's one thing. So I've got my sort of in-community nickname is Formation Man, like sort of like Superman, but less athletic. And yeah, so I've got that reputation of trying anything and seeing if anything will work. Most of the time it doesn't, and again, keeping it simple would be fine. I should take my own advice. I mean, that's the moral of the story, I think.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I fully hear it. It's basically like real life, to be fair. Formations change year by year anyway. It's never going to be like a fixed thing, so yeah, it makes sense. Now, obviously, the streets are saying that when it comes to your own Football Manager saves, you more so prefer the entertainment than winning trophies per se. Would you say that's truthful, or?
I mean, you try and find the blend of both. But it's who have you been talking to? Because it's a little bit too accurate.
I've just got a document, I'm afraid. I do my research.
Did you see I asked ChatGPT?
I did see that.
I had a conversation with ChatGPT and I said, ChatGPT, summarise Dr. Benjy's managerial ability. And it absolutely nailed me.
It was something like in his own way, he's good, or something. There was a bit like his own level of goodness.
Yeah, he's good in his own way. Yeah. It's like, that just means not good, doesn't it? I see what you're doing there, ChatGPT. Again, who's feeding ChatGPT the information? I would love to know where that's coming from. But again, terrifyingly accurate. I definitely think that was when I started doing content. I thought there was definitely some people out there that were trying to be the best Football Manager players as well as be content creators. And I thought, I don't want to be that. And if I come home after like a day of something, I don't necessarily want to watch a really intense, I'm brilliant at this game style gameplay. So I tried to include a lot of comedy and a lot of humor into what I was doing. And that sort of led to, I wouldn't say not taking it seriously, but not worrying about the results too much. Not being a super sweat, basically. Yeah, I didn't worry about the results too much. And I kind of knew that because of my core fundamentals of the game, if there's periods of the season where I have to win 6 in a row or 7 in a row, I probably win like 90% of those games just by knowing what I should be doing and having that in the back pocket of like, I can turn to that. Whereas you can't really do it the other way around because it looks like you're throwing. You can't be really good, decide to have fun, and everyone goes, what are you doing? Whereas the other way around, it's like, well, actually, we kind of had to focus in a little bit here and I have to take this really seriously for 2 hours. But yeah, if I understand your question. Are you not very good at the game and do you mask that with humour? Yes, I do. Thank you for asking.
Never what I said. That's never what I said. I just asked the question. At the end of the day, whatever method it is you use has got you to where you are today. Yeah. So nobody can really argue with it, especially ChatGPT or whoever it is that may have made the question.
Yeah, I'd like to see if they'd like to compete. ChatGPT, or they probably do very well, actually. It's probably not worth it.
maybe some good answers in the press conferences.
Yeah,
if we're
definitely.
using text to speech and whatnot. Fair enough. We are gonna get into a quick fire Q&A part here. Just quick little 10 questions. Some of them may be one-word answers. Some might require a tiny bit of explanation. First one I'd like to ask you: Mount Rushmore of FM. I asked you this before, but on camera now, Mount Rushmore. So the 4 creators that have had the biggest impact or influence on the community.
It's a bit, it feels really cop-out, and I think people listening that are part of that community will probably also give you the answer. I think I would change it now to, I'd put the Indonesian pairing up there as the first time winners.
So they're one head.
They're
Indonesia.
Like yeah, up there. Then Zealand, myself. Can I put myself there? Is that horrible to do?
It's your Mount Rushmore, mate. You're the one commissioning it. So if you want to put yourself...
Well, I think based on the budget, I probably... don't do mine last. If we've got time, then put me on the end.
Yeah.
See, myself, Work the Space, Lelujo and Zealand changed the game a little bit. We all did different things in different ways. Jack sort of originated it. I drove it forward. Kev provided a massive level of consistency. And then Z made it go bang. And the 4 of us kind of did that together. But I really would like to oust. Well, I don't mind who leaves out of the 3 of them, as long as. Do you know what? Actually, take me out. We'll put the Indonesian.
I was gonna say, yeah, one of them to go, but you stay.
Yeah, we'll change it up. I'll go. I'll replace me with the guys from Indonesia that won it all, and we'll have that as a Mount Rushmore. And what I'll do is I'll sort of be, I don't know, maybe I'll create my own little statue just above it, where I'm sort of sitting on top.
You can have like a shoulder or something.
I'll sort of look after it, yeah. Or maybe they're all wearing Doctor Benjy merch. That's maybe the way to go about it. So that
maybe
they can be there, but they're all sort of in ties that are branded Doctor Benjy.
Fair enough. That is not a bad Mount Rushmore, to be fair. Favorite ever FM Wonder Kid?
Favorite ever. See, there's so many good ones. Favorite ever. See, Carlos Fierro was very good way back in the day. Do you know what? Actually, there is an answer because he's not. No one would ever think of him as a wonder kid anymore. But Eden Hazard, when he was at Lille, was like was the guy. Well, that was my guy. I would always go for Eden Hazard. Him and Stephen Defoe, I would sign them as a pairing and bring them into any club I was at. So yeah, although Hazard obviously no longer is sort of as a wonder kid, he was my favorite.
That's your wonder kid. You can basically say you discovered him if you like when everyone was after him from Lille days. Who would you say is your favorite manager ever?
Favorite manager ever? See, that's tough because as a Liverpool fan, Klopp is such a simple answer, but it's probably the answer. I love the way he sort of revolutionised the way in which Liverpool were thought of, and was able to bring what he was so successful at Dortmund doing, bring it to Liverpool and showcasing that and the impact that he had almost immediately. And again, not worrying so much about the football, but worrying about the people and making it about the people. And that was something I really admired about Klopp and the way that he obviously managed and was tactically so astute, and the team around him and giving them credit at times and understanding that actually like there's things that they can do that I can't do. That's what a manager is. A manager isn't just like, look at this tactics board, let's see what we can do, let's make magic. Like it's actually a lot more than that. And Klopp was really good at being able to navigate all of it and still be successful, admittedly against a very good side over in Manchester, but like still, it's again a bit of a Klopp out answer. But
it's your personal favourite.
Yeah, I'll go Jurgen. So that wasn't quickfire, was it? That was a really long explanation of Klopp.
Listen, you're more than welcome to answer it for as long as you like, mate. It's your questions. Because I was thinking you might go a little towards Jose even because of the whole mind games and getting into people's heads and whatnot.
Yeah, I do like that side of it. But Big Sam was quite good for that as well. I remember there was a game at Stamford Bridge like years and years ago where Jose was really annoyed about the way that some other guys played.
Can't take it.
He was like, I can't take it. He hates it. I think that's a bit of me. That love a bit of that. So yeah.
Yeah, top man. Start, sub, sell. Zealand, Clates, and Lelujo.
Great question. I'll sell Lelujo because at this point his stock's pretty high, so I'll cash in, and also he's getting on a bit. So if I'm going to sell him, I've got to sell him right now.
Yeah. To Saudi maybe.
Yeah, sure, and he'd love that as well. the warm weather. Some of the suit jackets he wears would probably suffer, but other than that, yeah, he'd love that. I'll start Zealand because he's still a big hitter, and I'll sub Clates on at some point. Like Clates is a massive contender for if I had an assistant. If I was playing, I'd probably go for Clates. He would hate it because he'd have to deal with me for 3 days, but yeah, it'd be the right fit for me, I think.
Fair enough. Good answer. What would you say is the hardest position to play on the football pitch?
I think probably striker. When I played, I was a central midfielder, and you sort of had the protection of both ends. You didn't necessarily have to worry about it. And I'd also played goalkeeper in my past as well, which a lot of that feels like I used to relish the idea of being a goal. Like people would say goalkeeper, right? But I used to relish the idea of like, oh, it's up to me. Like if it goes wrong, then it's up to me. And I used to love that, whether it was a penalty shootout or it was a big moment or a big save. Whereas I think if you're a striker and the pressure on scoring, like you've got the opportunities you've got are pretty few and far between, generally speaking, depending on the team you're in. Like I remember having strikers that I played with that would come along and you'd think, oh, they're going to be great. And they don't score for 4 games and suddenly you don't see them again. And it's just like, blimey, that's how ruthless it can be. So I'd go striker.
Yeah, I'll probably be inclined to agree, to be fair, given the pressure. Fair enough. Best stadium in the world?
I love Anfield, but I'll try to avoid a Liverpool-centric answer for everything.
No, you are more than welcome to. It's your answers, isn't it? If you want to get a Liverpool prop.
I remember the first time, and not many people would say this. They really like because it's got a bit of an airport feel. But I remember going to Wembley for the first time, the new Wembley for the first time, and being like, wow, this feels like a modern stadium. And now it's 15, 20 years old nearly. But going there for the first time, and I've sat in numerous bits of Wembley, and anywhere you sit, the view is amazing to watch football in. And I don't know if there's another stadium like that. Yeah, there's like a lot, and the fact it's the national stadium, and I've watched the Olympics there, and I've watched England there a few times. And I've seen that. I've been there for a Liverpool-Barcelona game, and things like this, a friendly. Liverpool won 4-0, which was great, and it was like a 90,000 seat stadium of just Liverpool fans. And so I've had some really brilliant experiences at Wembley Stadium. So again, I'm not sure many people would say that because I think there's a lot of grounds that have got a bit more of a nostalgia feel to them, and Wembley doesn't really an aura to them. And honestly, I wish I'd been to more foreign stadiums because I'm sure there's. I'd love to go to Dortmund. I'd love to go to the Nou Camp. I'd love to go to these places that are like iconic. San Siro. I'd love to go there as well. But yeah, I'll go Wembley. I do really like it as a ground.
Yeah, I hear that one. Nobody asked for my opinion, but a similar one to what you just described is the new Bernabeu. When I went there, when they started singing the anthem, it's like I could see like Beckham, Figo, Zidane floating in the sky. I was like, it was crazy. Yeah, but not Wembley, but yeah.
Oh yeah, it's up Bernabeu's up there, right? Bernabeu's up there. Cool.
Yeah, it's a cold one. Off football, if you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what are you picking?
Only one food. Tell you what, I eat a lot of food. Only one food.
Maybe the Guinness and the fish
and chips.
I feel
like the fish and chips is up there. Is bread a bit of a boring answer? I feel like you can do quite a lot with bready material. So no one's ever described bread as a material. So I feel like
it's going to make for a great TikTok. You explaining bread.
Can I put stuff on the bread? Not to sandwich levels. I'm just talking like jam.
Sure.
I'll go bread then. I feel like I broke your game there, but I sort of...
You've broken the game a little bit, but you're more than welcome. Feel free. You found the meta.
Everyone else is going like burgers, pizzas. I've gone bread. But then again, pizza without toppings isn't as good, is it? You've really got to think about this. Yeah.
That's true. You could low-key make bread into pizza as well, kind of with the dough.
Gingerbread's good as well, but I feel like you can't have too much gingerbread. That's not good for you.
Yeah, that's kind of cheating at that point. Best advice you've ever been given?
You never get a second chance to make a good first impression. That was my granddad passed that on to my dad, and my dad said that to me when I was like 14, and I was like, do you know what? Yeah, like that. And so anyone you meet for the first time, you should always try and give them the best version of you and then disappoint them after that. Whereas, but building back from like trying to, there's a couple, actually, do you know what? I'll go for 2. That one's really good, but the one that I sort of created a little bit is that a bad moment in your life is a chapter, not the whole story, and you get to write the ending. So don't worry about it too much. Cool. And that's one that I try and pass. Because I've had a lot of like mental health difficulties in the past, and that's something that if I speak to young people, especially young males, who feel like there's a bit of a dead end, I always think that like that's just a chapter. We can pass that chapter off, and we can start a new one. And you get to write it. And like if you want to color it in, then you color it in. You apply the color to a pretty grey picture sometimes, and you'll be all right. So there's 2, right? There's one which is very positive of like, make a good first impression, but also if you don't make a good first impression, don't worry, there's more parts to the story. So
fair enough. Yeah. Wow, we just got a bit of wholesome philosopher Benjy right there.
Philosopher Benjy, the new era.
But in the next question, if you could have one superpower, what would you pick? From that very serious answer to this, a superpower.
I'd worry about the landings, but I'd love to be able to fly. Because why wouldn't you want to fly? Anyone like invisibility is good, but for only a short period of time. Whereas as long as I'm flying all the time, it depends really. What's fueling me? I guess is it the same as running? Because maybe I wouldn't want to fly, but I feel like flying.
See, I'd take teleportation rather than the flying.
Yeah, actually,
less dangerous.
Yeah, the flying bit. Why bother flying if you could just teleport? You make a pretty good point. Teleportation's good. Because a lot of people say like the ability to know what other people are thinking. I'd only want that, again, in very specific circumstances. If I could turn that off, that'd be pretty good. That'd make me quite powerful. But other than that, yeah, I think teleportation way better than flying. Anyone that picks, retrospectively, anyone that's picking flying really hasn't thought about it. So
no, people might just like seeing, from a crazy angle in the sky or something. So fair play to them.
Yeah, just go on a plane and then don't. The idea that I'm having to flap as well would look stupid. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
no, you could do it automatically like that. No
sorry, I don't know why I've decided that if I'm going to fly, I have to be a bird. But yeah. You're right. I could just be like Superman, which would be far better off. No, I don't know what to think. But yeah, I think teleportation is way better. Yeah. Sorry
for swaying you. I just gave you my answer. I said you can have your flying one.
I think you're so right that teleportation is significantly better than just flapping around the M6 going, "Oh, this is great." Yeah.
Last question. Obviously, we've spoken a lot about the career, the achievements so far. Where do you hope to be 5 years from now?
5 years from now, I would love to be able to say that we've done 5 of these. Like FIFA, like, I don't know how much of a part they would ever want me to play in it. I would love to be a massive part of it. I would love to stay involved, whether that's through background stuff or on-screen stuff, regardless, really. And driving that in a direction that no one necessarily thought was possible. I would love to be able to say that I was part of that story and part of that journey. That'd be really cool. And ultimately, look, if I'm still making a career out of being an online personality that does content to some degree, then let's be honest, it's easier than a proper job at times. So yeah, I'll take it. So if I'm still happy, still healthy, my little boy's happy, like, then I'm chilling. That's that. Again,
there we go.
Tough, I'll take it. All right.
No, it's the perfect answer.
Part of it was like, I'd love to be on screen for FIFA 3. Also, I hope my little boy's all right.
Yeah, also, whole time my son as well. You're like, good dude.
Yeah, by the way, also love my family. So, just, yeah.
Fair enough. Well, there we go, guys. That was, I enjoyed it a lot. Hopefully, you guys did at home as well, whether you were listening or you're watching. Of course, be sure to check out Dr. Benjy. If you don't know him by now, you've probably been under a rock or something. Go follow him on his socials. And if you want to catch more of these episodes, follow us to stay tuned on FIFA E. In a bit.